Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to today's session. Thank you for joining us this morning. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that the land we identify as RTO9 is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Huron-Wendat peoples. RTO9 honors the land, the people, and the treaties, recognizing the original guides of these territories and their enduring contributions. As treaty people, we all share the responsibility to uphold these agreements in a fair and respectful way. As a partner of Indigenous Tourism Ontario, RTO9 is committed to supporting Indigenous communities by creating space for their stories and helping foster socioeconomic growth through tourism. So, just to touch on a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started this morning. First, if you missed the little sound, this workshop is being recorded and it will be available for viewing after today's session on the RTO9 website, which is just rto9.ca. There will also be time for questions. So if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box down at the bottom, which can be done anonymously, or you can pop into the chat window on the side. We're all going to be monitoring everything, so feel free to send them. You're also going to receive an email following today's section. It's just going to have a quick 2-minute survey link if you're able to provide some feedback from the workshop. Would be greatly appreciated. I'll share that with Debbie and Dolores, so we'd all appreciate a little bit of feedback. And now, without further ado, I'm going to pass it along to our lovely facilitators this morning, Debbie and Dolores.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm pretty excited to be here and share, what Dolores has to offer our industry. I'd like to just give you a little bit of a background of Dolores. Dolores is a leader of the City of Ottawa management team, and her experience is with special events, marketing, communications, and government relations, and has provided 40 years experience in community planning and development at the municipal and provincial level. Her work passion involved engaging and developing economic and cultural richness across the City of Ottawa through civic engagement, policy standardization, and leadership resource. She has also been the president of Festivals and Events Ontario, a board member and educator with International Festivals and Events Association, a committee member with the Algonquin College, and so much more. So Dolores brings a lot of amazing expertise to the table, and she's also a lot of fun. So with that, I'll pass it over to Dolores.
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning, everyone. It's thank you for all of you for participating in this session. I'm quite excited about it, and I do apologize. We had to delay it last week, but that's because COVID came knocking on my door. So I just want to be so that wasn't Debbie or Meg. I do want to also add, if you don't mind, Debbie, that for 5 years I chair the Stewart Park Festival in Perth. So that's a free festival, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the other is I sit on the executive of the Canadian National Folk Music Awards. So, and the reason I'm sharing that is really just to show you the diversity. And in some lanes, if I can assist you with something, I'm always available for a call, whatever. But because I wanted to show you the diversity. So with that in mind, does anyone have any questions before we start? We're good. I'm going to walk you through the presentation, and I do have speaking notes I'm going to be referring to. And as Meg said, you'll get a copy of those. I'm also hoping throughout the presentation that we can have some engagement where we can learn from each other as well. So if I'm speaking of something and you have something you've done that worked really well, we would love to hear from you on that. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we have a trivia question. So my trivia question is, what is the largest festival in Ontario? Can you see answers, Deb?
Nothing coming in yet. I'm looking. Oh, TIFF. Oh. Another one says TIFF. Toronto Caribbean Festival, Caribana.
Yep,
Caribana?
Yeah, it's the Caribbean. Yeah, that's it. They get 1 million attendees. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, so I have some more trivia we'll do later. But we'll go, for now, I just want to, we'll start going through, but basically what we want to talk about today is strategic funding, as the title says. And there's many avenues to do strategic funding. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, explore some strategies, perhaps, and that's where I would like your feedback as well in terms of what worked for you. And then just how do we help festivals thrive? Because as we know, there's competition for festivals in terms of funding. So we're going to talk a bit about that as well. Meg's going to move the slides along, I believe, Meg. There we go. Okay. So why strategic funding matters. So this, it matters so much if, because we can't always, and I'll talk about that, grants, grants are out there, but we're very lucky in Ontario that we have, actually in Canada, that we have an opportunity to apply for several grants for our festivals. If you look in the States, and I do teach in the States, they don't have as many opportunities as we have. So we need resilience through diverse funding streams, which we're going to talk about. So it's not just grants, there's other avenues which we'll go through, and growth opportunities, because the thing is to grow your festival or event. And I say that because, an event can be something, and I say this respectfully, it can be something in your community that might not have music. It could be an incident happening and you're doing a fundraiser. That is an event as well, right? So, and so you want growth opportunities within your programming and in your audiences. The festival that I've been involved in, we saw over the years that because we want to bring tourists in, we need to change it up a little bit every year. I mean, there are festivals for sure that people, they don't want it to change. The festival goers, they want the same thing every year, but that works. But you really should be adding a new element, because you want to increase your tourism and your festival attendees. You want to build credibility with the funders and the partners. That's key. And that is all about relationships. And I'll be going through this as well. I can't stress enough the importance of relationships when you're looking for funding and when you're working with your partners. We can go to the next slide if you don't mind. So the funding landscape. There's public funding, as I mentioned, there's federal and provincial funding and municipal funding, which I'm sure we're all aware of, but there's a lot of competition for that funding, particularly at the federal level and the provincial level. And I know, for example, we have applied for festival funding to the federal government, and we were surprised we didn't get any funding. And when I spoke with the person at the federal office, because I should mention, our festival is a free festival. So we do everything by donation and grants. The reason for that is the festival is held on park grounds that a gentleman had left to the town of Perth, but in there, we're not allowed to charge any entrance fee to the park. So as a result, we start every year with $0, and we focus on donations, grants, and funding. So donations I don't know if anyone on here does do donations, but I can tell you that donations, I'll give you an example. Our Saturdays, so our festival runs from Friday to Sunday, and Saturday is the bigger day with the festival. On Saturdays, or throughout the whole weekend, we have donation boxes at the gateways into the park, and we have volunteers there with the donation boxes. Like this year, we got over $24,000 in donations. Last year, we got 23. So, and it's really just having people at the gate wearing a bin, saying thank you for your donation. People can get in without donating, because our mandate is, regardless of your economic status, you should be able to enjoy the arts. And then obviously there's the provincial funding. The provincial funding, there I would say it's so important to get to know the provincial funders. It's easier probably than it is the federal funders, but it's building the relationships, and we will talk about a bit about that further. The other is the corporate sponsorships and the cash and in kind. Corporate sponsorships, I think we all are aware of what that is. There are tools as well, though, to look at corporate sponsors. So if you think of, I'll just pick a name, Coca-Cola. So they have certain mandates. They will, like, their goal is climate change and some other things. So you want to know what their mission is, so that you then can tap into their corporate sponsorship program and align it with their mandate and with the mandate of your event. And sometimes it doesn't have to be that your mandate is as big as theirs, but they just want elements in it within the sponsorship program and maybe some mentions on stage. Community giving is huge. So when I talk about community giving in terms of just folks, like there's the legacy program. Again, I'm not sure who has legacy programs. I will tell you, legacy programs are really picking up as a revenue source. So basically what a legacy program is, and there's training involved in this because it's a very sensitive conversation. But if someone were to pass away, they would leave a percentage, maybe 2%, it could be 10%, it could be 50% of their estate to your festival. And that's why I say it is a very delicate conversation. But it's surprising how many festival goers, maybe someone's been going to your festival for 20 years or 30 years, whatever, or 10 years. And having that conversation with them, and it might be 2%, but that 2% adds up. But again, I have to stress I think, it's important to get the training to have those sensitive conversations with folks. And then you would do a campaign, you would do an education session. You could also have education sessions at your festival. And it's, to respect it. But I'm telling you, I hate to say this, there is money out there in that avenue. And I can, I can always, do another session with you and bring someone in who's been very successful at doing that as well. They've done it for community giving, the legacy, but it's been successful. And now that's something we're going to try as well. The other is the Roundup. Now, Roundup is really it's been around for a bit, but it's taking stride. So the Roundup campaigns, I think everyone knows, for example, if you went to, Starbucks and you got a coffee for $4.50 and you round up to $5. That 50 cents is the roundup money. So typically how that works, you would work with a company because there is software that's required to do the roundup. And the company it might be like a 70-30 split. They do take an admin fee, but it's been very successful. Actually, this afternoon, I'm going to an event. We just secured a sponsor on a roundup campaign, and it's very significant. I'm talking millions, but it's more for the municipality. And then how do we separate that into some to the arts? So you may want to talk to your town or your city and talk about how do we do a roundup within our city. And what I would say to you is remind them the value of your festival or your event. So if you sorry, excuse me. So for example, somebody might go to the grocery store and you want to contribute to the arts? Do you want to contribute to a seniors program? Like sometimes there's multiple choices you have, but you can also have your festival there. And it could be the only choice they have. So you don't have to have multiples, but some do. The arts, I think, is one that really, there should be more focus on. Arts is our festivals as well, right? And I am working on that with another province in terms of how they get that up and running to get the donations towards the arts. But again, as I say, there's a lot of money to be put in there. So if you think of for every, if you get, let's say 10,000 people through a grocery store, I'm going to say in a month, might be, but in terms of the footprint, and if you were getting 50 cents off each of those consumers, that's a lot of money for your festival. So the roundup is big. I can talk to you more about that. And I can show you that at another time. And I can introduce you to someone who's leading the roundup piece in terms of they have the software. I'm not trying to, sell you a company or anything. But the person we're meeting with this afternoon, and we have a signed agreement with them, they have the software, and as do other people. But if you just wanted to learn more, I have asked the person if they could come in at some point and we can have a conversation about that. And I would just need Meg or Deb. We can do a survey, maybe question, and then we can bring someone in. And then memberships. Memberships that's another source, but typically for festivals, it could be the VIP program could be considered a membership. or you could start a membership program for your festival or your event as well. The key with the memberships is always remember you need engagement throughout the year if they're going to be a member. That's key to the success of it. And then we're going to move down to earned revenue, which is your ticket sales, concessions, your workshops. We've done workshops where we make the money in workshops, to be honest with you, is in alcohol sales. Believe it or not, because we bring in artists, they do workshops. And Debbie, you've been there, the Crystal Palace. They're in there, and we never used to have alcohol sales in the afternoon. And I'm certainly not promoting alcohol, although I know it sounds like I am. But the alcohol sales in the afternoon were beyond our expectation, because people, they want to jam with the artists, they want to learn from the artists, they just want to hang out with artists. So alcohol plus some chips, and plus we put a food vendor outside, and he was very surprised with how much he was making in terms of people buying the burgers and fries. So a workshop, I recognize not all festivals have workshops, but there is a lot of value in them. And you can tie that sometimes to the artist contract. So yes, the artist would be performing maybe Friday night, but you can negotiate in their contract that they do a workshop for you as well. And what I would also do with that is to, if you're going to do the workshops with your artists, I would get some testimonials for social media from your artists. So as I mentioned, the ticket sales, the concessions, the workshops, and festival services to other festivals. So for example, what we did, we set up a first aid program. And the reason we did that, because after COVID, we found it was difficult to get first aiders for our festival because they were booked. And, some shut down as a result of COVID. So we created our own first aid service, and we have people trained. We have volunteers who are trained. We got sponsorship for the emergency kits, for the stretchers, the tent. And now what we do is we go out and to other festivals or events, and we provide the service of first aid, but the money goes to the festival. So it's not going to a company. It's the Stewart Park Group. That money goes back to Stewart Park Festival. So we can go down to the next one, if that's okay. Okay. So I'm talking here now about building a funding plan. So the funding plan, which I'm sure most of you are aware of, but the funding plan, I would recommend you treat it as you would project management. The funding plan, it's to look at what sources of funding are out there, but also what is your value add in terms of people giving money to you. And that's where your data is. It's so important to have that data. I have here, to define your unique value. What is your unique value? That's critical. These are all things in your funding plan that you would use in your grant application as well. So it's all about tracking throughout your festival and throughout the year, and then you apply that into your grant. But your unique value, how is your festival different than a festival the next community over? That's key. Align funding with the mission and the audience. So I mentioned earlier Coca-Cola, for example, what is their mission? What is your mission? And then how do you bring the two of them together when you're securing funding? So for example, one would be, probably most of you are aware of this, like TD Bank. They have a grant program where their whole mission is to bring communities together through the arts and to enhance that. And so we were successful with getting twice now the grant from the TD Bank. So if you're not aware of that, I recommend you look into it. And there are other banks, but TD Bank theirs is $10,000 a year, but they have a criteria, of course, as everyone else does. You want to be building short and long-term plans for your budget. So, you have your annual budget. And as I said, for Stewart Park Festival, we don't have a budget. We start every year with zero. But we do have a strategy in terms of we're growing our event long-term. And the long-term primarily is looking at multi-year sponsorship agreements. And the beauty of a multi-year sponsorship agreement is that you can do a 2-year or a 3-year. I would say if it's the first year the sponsor is working with you, they probably won't sign a multi-year. The second year they will sign a multi-year. And a multi-year could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I would say 2 or 3 at the most, because the environment changes. But for that, the nice thing about the multi-year agreements, it then allows you, for 2 years that Tim Hortons is going to donate X amount of money. But then what happens that you don't have to be chasing them next year. You can go look and for other sponsors. So that's key as well. To identify opportunities to increase revenue, that's a bit of a brainstorming session I would recommend. And if anyone wanted to do one, I'm more than happy to do one online with your group and walk you through okay, let's do the brainstorming of what funding we need and how do we get funding. And funding there's funding out there that's not your traditional funding. And one of that is the Roundup that I spoke of. But there's such opportunities. There's opportunities even to throughout the year work with other groups who are hosting like concerts or whatever. So maybe you work the door on behalf of your festival. They give you money. They give you a percentage. There's ways like that because just remember that volunteers are I don't want to say limited, but people are having a hard time getting volunteers. So if you source these groups that need volunteers, and maybe there's an opportunity for your group to tee up with them, and then there's a bit of a revenue stream. I'm not saying it would be a lot, but there could be a bit of a revenue stream there for you. I will tell you the revenue stream with the first aid thing has been very, very lucrative. Then it's the Explore the Legacy. I can't talk that enough. I already spoke about the Roundup. And then seek community partners who want to give. So separate from the legacy program, just getting to know your community partners. We, for example, after COVID happened, we had no money to start the next year. So we did go out to community partners and we asked them, we spoke about the festival. We made sure we had our data in terms of the value of the festival to the event, the number of people coming, the number of people shopping in the town as a result of this festival. And we went to, they weren't really a partner, to be honest with you. They are now, but we knew this company was lucrative. We knew the person we went to one person who was an executive in a high-tech firm. He had retired, but done very well. And we met with him and had the conversation to say, look, we're not going to be able to do this festival. We know you like the festival. I mean, I'm really summarizing, but how can you help us? Can you help us? And what can we do in exchange? It was a great conversation we had with the person. And I will tell you, he saved the festival in 2023, which was, I think, the first one after these COVID. So it's having those conversations. It's getting to know your businesses, getting to know your community leaders. And I will tell you, just to give you an example, that person agreed to give us $50,000 to make sure we could kick off the festival. And he wanted nothing in exchange. He didn't want to sign his name anywhere. He didn't want anything, literally. And so that's what we did. So it's engaging your partners, getting to know your partners, getting to know what I would also recommend to you is a lot of communities are very diverse now in terms of culture. One of the things that has a lot of value is you work with those cultural groups. First, you do your research to look at what has, so I would say in Ottawa, for example, we know in the 50s that a lot of Italian families came over to Ottawa, and we did research on what was, for lack of a better word, what have they brought to Ottawa, right? It's amazing what they brought. Typically, these groups, we're seeing it now that people who immigrated to our country years ago, they worked very hard. Traditionally, they all make sure their kids are well educated, but they want to give back to the community. And we're working with groups on that avenue. And I actually have, I met with 2 of the universities and I pitched a program to them about that. What program can we put in place to provide an opportunity for those groups who came here and have, done well, worked really hard. A lot of them own restaurants, a lot of them, they're in high tech, etc. The more you educate yourself on those groups, and then you go, the Latin American community, for example, in Ottawa, they meet monthly. Go to the group and have a conversation with them. And chances are that they want to help your festival. now, mind you, it's never in writing or anything, but you say to them, we'll do something to highlight what your community has done for this town or the city. That has been, and I've done that more at the City of Ottawa than I've done with the Stewart Park Festival. We have done it with the Stewart Park Festival, it was successful, but a bigger scale for sure with the city. So if anyone's on here from a municipality, I can speak to you about that. And as I say, I just last week pitched this to the universities to see if I could get some students to do some more research and help me build the framework. Just on a note there, I will tell you, I had someone come who called me. It was a cold call, and their dad, this particular person, their dad immigrated from Italy. They were raised in Little Italy in Ottawa, and this gentleman called me. He's now in his 50s, and he wanted to give back because Ottawa was so good to his parents. So he asked me what he could do. So we have. I know it's not an event. It is an event in a way. We have a bocce ball court in Ottawa that the Italian community used to use a lot, but it's no longer usable. This gentleman, he owns a construction company, and he's like, I'm going to say he's probably 50, but again, he's paying us $350,000 to redo that bocce ball court. In exchange, he doesn't really want a lot of acknowledgement, but the city, we're going to do an event for that particular Italian group every year at that bocce ball court. The city will own it, but we'll program it and to bring back the history of the Italian community. Just a sense of what some of the things. I might seem I'm going off stream, but I know one day you're going to be thinking of this and you'll go, you know what, I'm going to give that a try because it has a lot of value. Network with your government partners. I can't stress that enough. And it's even going for a coffee, literally just calling. So if you're applying for a provincial grant or federal grant, municipal grant, whatever, call the person because everyone is assigned, right? They have the government person who deals with the grants that you'd be. Call them and go for a coffee and build the relationship. I've had a lot of coffees and I've always been successful with the grants. I'm not saying because I had a coffee with them because there's a jury process, but it's just starting that relationship and it gives them a better understanding about your festival and your event. The other is, sometimes you want earned media for your event. Go for a coffee with your local, if it's CTV or whoever's out there, call them, ask them, and you just talk to them about your event and see how you can partner. They don't typically have money, but they will do stuff in kind. And it's, if you have something exciting throughout the year, say if you're doing a fundraiser, now you have that relationship with the media person, say, hey, we'd love to have you out there, etc. Typically it happens. So, and it's not just here, it's happening. I can share with you, it happens, in the States, for example. This is what we teach in the States, and students have applied it, and it does work really well. The other thing is you want to track your deadlines and your cycles, because when you look at your cycles, when you're tracking your deadlines and your cycles, it also helps you it identifies gaps for you. It's like anything else. Any project, track it, look for the gaps and see what's working, what's not working. If for whatever you didn't receive a grant, I would recommend you follow up with the grant provider to see why you didn't receive a grant. And then that just gives you more knowledge for next year. What I would also recommend is you hire someone to do your grant writing. If you don't have a dedicated grant writer on your volunteer board or committee, it is worth the money to get someone to write. I would recommend you hire someone to write your provincial or your federal grant, one of them, because they tend to have more detail. All you need is, listen, it's 18, I think it's the person we get, and he seems to be always successful with this, the grants that he submits, but he charges $1,800. And then what I do is I take his grant. So say if it's a provincial grant, I take what he's written and then I put it's basically a cut and paste and like with a bit of tweaking into the community grants. So yes, you paid $1,800, but you can leverage what he's put together for all your other grants that you're applying for. And that is what's key for your grants is data and economic impact. You want to have someone do an economic impact study on your festival. That has so much value when you're writing for a grant, because that's what they want. They want to see it. Is it worth the investment for them? Typically, it's about tourism. It's about inclusivity. That's the stuff that you want to have in your grant. But to have that, you need to be able to show your numbers in terms of, how you're identifying that in the grant. And, for the cultural diversity, I know I just did one and they wanted to know, okay, so, what is for inclusivity? What are you seeing at your, what cultures are you seeing at your festival? Years ago, that was never asked. Now it is. The other is to do surveys. Surveys are very, very important, just like the one after this session. But honestly, surveys are important. And if you needed help developing a survey, I'm more than pleased to help you. I'm not looking for money, let's be clear. I'm just saying I will help you. I'm not trying to sell myself or anything, but I will help your groups with whatever you need. And I'm not looking for money. So that's
Dolores,
kind of this.
will it be okay if we put your email address in there?
Yeah, I have it it's on the last slide, but
Perfect.
yeah. And I mean, Debbie knows me. I mean it sincerely. If you need help, I can help you with this stuff. So we'll go to the next slide, if that's okay, Deb. Okay, sponsors. So we talked a bit about this already, the sponsorship success. So, what are the sponsor? The sponsor wants visibility, typically. Like some sponsors don't want anything, to be honest with you. I've seen that, but they want visibility. And this is where you would, we all know you would put, the roll-up banner and you'd have the sponsor. That's all great stuff. That's what they want. But it's also good to be creative. So maybe you're including them in your radio ad. Maybe you're having a testimonial like from the sponsor to talk about his, why he or she loves the festival and why they're contributing to the festival. That's really good on social media, because a lot of the times, especially if it's a community leader or someone like TD Bank, and they will do this stuff, then people think, oh, you know what? Yeah, this is a festival of credibility, because look at the players they have. You have artists. You can do testimonials with artists, and they mention the sponsor as well. And then you want to look at the impact. So they want to know what is the impact of their dollar. And that's where I go back to the surveys and the economic studies. Are people shopping in their stores when they come to your festival? Who's coming to your festival? Are there heads in beds in your festival? And, you might think that applies in a big city. It applies in a small town as well. It's just as important, and it probably maybe more important, because small towns don't get the conferences and stuff like that the bigger hotels would get. And work with your hotel industry if you can. They may give you some deals on the rooms. They might, you could ask also for, a free room, like a gift certificate for a free room, and do some draws, work with your businesses. So that's where I go back to the in-kind, that have them, maybe it's like someone who makes hats, and they'll give a gift certificate for a hat because they want people, tourists coming in, or the shops, restaurants, and hotels, stuff like that. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a big city, a small city is just as important. The other is you want to go beyond the logos, which is what I talked about. And this is where testimonials are really important. And testimonials after the festival are very important when you're applying and seeking sponsorship for the next year, because you can show those. You would, typically put them in a presentation. And also with the artists, again, you can have them do the testimonials in advance of the festival. You have the testimonials after they've performed, and they can say, wow, it was fantastic. I was treated well. The audience was amazing. Those testimonials are very important, again, and they all feed into sponsorship, because that's what the sponsors want to see. Again, your local businesses. And if you have, like here we have the Perth Tourism Association, work closely with them. And natural partners, with that I mean natural partners are people in your community who love the festival. Might be the person who owns a bookstore or the music shop. I would also include natural partners as people who are your frequent flyers at your festival, and they will contribute. If you approach them just one-on-one, what we have done is, again, small town, but we have done things like go to the doctor's office, and there might be 10 doctors in that particular building, and you meet with one and say, can you help us, rally the other professionals, whether they're doctors or whatever they are. And then they might all give $100 each. We've seen them, they all give $500. That, again, is about the relationship in your community, which has a lot of value. So I would recommend you do that. I will share with you this year, we've never really made a lot of a profit off our festival, and we do have to have a reserve of 25,000 always. But this year we made 80,000 in straight clean revenue back to us. And a lot of it is where we changed up our strategy. We were focusing on the big players like the car dealerships and those guys. And then we started focusing on the community groups, which I mentioned, the doctors, the lawyers, the real estate agents. And the thing is just to bring them together, go to their office, and you could have a little handout, like a trifold. You could go meet with them to have a presentation, because for them, it's their community as well. And that's the language to them, right? This is your community. We know this, event will generate economic impact for the community. Can you help us? Because it's all about healthy living in our communities and stuff. So that works. And then I talked about the multi-year sponsorship agreements. They are golden. They are absolutely golden, because it saves you time from, year after year chasing the same people. So we can go on to the next, Debbie. So this is where I talked about grant writing. Grant writing, I know, for example, next week, and I'm assuming they're going across the province, on the 30th in Ottawa, all of the provincial grant, say the provincial government, the grants that they have related to festivals and events, they're hosting a workshop, and they're going to have a speaker in, and it's a half-day session. And they have several people coming in, and you can sit and talk with them and talk about your event and how you best language your grants. And I apologize, I meant to look up to see where, if it's a traveling show, so to speak, across Ontario. I haven't done that, but I can certainly do that and feed it back to Debbie. But that has value. That's full in Ottawa now. Yes, it's full. Yes, yeah. Isn't that great though? It's being held at Arts Court. So if anyone's locally, maybe within an hour or so, it's full, but it is being held at Arts Court. And I think I know some folks are talking about asking for it to be done again, or even done virtually. I talked about the thanks, Kim. I talked about the strong outcomes, and it's all about strategy in terms of the economic, the cultural, and the community. And then it's just how do you weave that together in terms of your presentation. And a presentation, doesn't have to be just a thought. I mean, traditionally, it's a PowerPoint presentation. I would also suggest to you that you do a reel of your festival and a reel of the impact. Go out on the street and talk to people in your community, and do they know about the festival, that type of stuff. That has a lot of value. More than pleased to talk about that in more detail. This is where I talk about the data. The governments for sure want the data. That's critical. And in terms of the economic impact, we hired someone, actually the grant writer we hired, we paid him $1,800. His name is Brody Fraser. He does a lot of the big festivals like Blues Fest and up this way. Anyway, excuse me, super nice guy. But it was minimal. I think he had 2 people on the ground at our festival on the weekend, and I think he charged us $300. It was so minimal. And they were out and about with iPads doing surveys and collecting data. So that works. Talk to the program officers. This I already mentioned. Attending all the sessions, doing the testimonials before and after. The after is just as important as the before, because it tells the full story, right? So make sure you're getting that after piece. I talked about going to the media. The big thing is, and I'm sure all of you know this with your festival, is that what you don't want to have is you're opening your festival and you have 10,000, 10 people speaking. So when you offer your sponsor something, just you want to be a bit limited, because the audience is there for music. So just find other ways to be interactive. We do things such as we also offer, if they're a sponsor, they get to have a vending booth at depending on the level of sponsorship, but they may get to have it for free, or they get it for a reduced rate, provide opportunity for them to be there. And then during the speaking notes, we will mention that, let's say if it's a car dealership, we can say, if you want more information, go over there, they're located here, but we want to thank them. So that has had a lot. Just the thing is, on stage, as we know, people are there for music. You don't want to overpopulate that, but make sure you have it in your speaking notes and just keep going over and over. As every time you're introducing, like, the start of the sessions. The other thing is, I don't know, I apologize, I don't know everyone that's on, but if you have an opportunity for donations, so I recognize a lot are ticketed events, but there might be an opportunity to have donations, and I can't say enough about having them at the entrances to the park. People are excited coming into the park. After the park, Saturday night, we get the most money because we do a dump of the donations throughout the day. Saturday night is key. We get so much money from that. Like and we get American money, Canadian money. But I would try that. You might want to try a program by donation, not your festival, because I'm assuming most of you are probably running festivals that you can't, it needs to be ticketed events. But if there's a component that can be by donation, I would recommend you do that. And what we call ours festival by donation. So we don't say free in anything, just so you know. Years ago, before I came on board, it was called Free Festival. And we turned it around to festival by donation. And as I say, it's quite lucrative. As I said, we got over 20,000 on the Saturday, and this is over the last couple of years, but the most was this particular year. On the Friday, we get about 16,000, just to give you a sense. So that's pretty good. And then Sunday, it goes down because Sunday we're done by 4:00. And Sunday, I think we got $9,300 on Sunday in donations. So that's not bad. Oh, the link won't paste in the webinar here. Is there Deb, are you there?
Yes, I am. Oh. And I asked Kim what the link was for the roadshow, the tourism roadshow.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then the last one here is a plan reporting at the start of your event. As I say, you want to track it all. It's so important to track it all. And then you also, and just look for opportunities for growth as you go through. And I'm sure most of you, we're today specifically talking about funding, because in this, you also want to track your volunteers, your volunteer time. That's key because that shows the sponsor or the funder, let's say, the investment from the community in terms of volunteers as well. On Saturday, we had probably, throughout the weekend, we get about 20,000 people. On Saturday, we would have had, so it would have started at noon on Saturday, and then it goes until 9:00 at night on Saturday. So there's artists all in between, typically 9:30 finishes. So we would have had probably 5,000 to 6,000 people. I would say closer to 5 on the Saturday night. It all depends on the artist as well, right? So we see that, which I think anyone does. If you have a rock star artist, so to speak, you're going to get more money. But the key also is on stage, the MC is constantly reminding people, remember, we are a festival by donation. We appreciate your contribution. We want to keep this festival alive. Oh, we got the link now. There we go. Okay, so I think we can go to the next slide here, which is engaging the community. Yeah, there we go. So this is where I talk about, people give to what they love and respect, and that's tapping into your community, as I mentioned. It's even, depending on the type of festival you have, but it's networking. Like, go to your seniors groups. Like, they play cards on Tuesday afternoon, pop in and see them. And maybe you have a little something you can give them from your festival and encourage them to go to your festival, or get a story from them attending their festival with their children when they were like, these are just nice stories. And it is giving them what they love and respect, which, well, for us, it's music. And also we do speak a lot about, our goal is to provide opportunity for those, regardless of their economic status, to be at the festival. And people love that because they feel their contribution is helping someone who wouldn't be able to attend the festival. And we do youth programs and youth music programs. We line them up with artists. So that's kind of a different topic, and I recognize that. But and there's Friends of the Festival programs, which is kind of what I'm talking about. Those are the Friends of the Festival, who people who are contributing in ways that are in kind, and they're not financial. Some could be, but you want to acknowledge them because it shows people in the community what other people are doing to help your festival survive. Donor recognition is key. Again, if people are open to it, as I mentioned, the gentleman that gave us 50,000, he didn't want any recognition, so you just respect it. But donor recognition, which is separate from sponsors, what we do with our donor recognition, we do create some noise around the donors that have contributed financially to our festival. So we do talk about that. Crowdfunding I have it's there because it's still being done, but it doesn't seem, to my knowledge, in the research I've done, it's not being done as much as it used to. Like it's still there, but I think Roundup is kind of taken stride and really making a difference. I can't tell you enough about Roundup. I think that's a whole nother session, Debbie, we should have. Seriously. I really think that there's so much value in that. And then I talked about the legacy giving. That could be another session, because it's fine to say you're going to do a legacy program, but you have to be trained in it. Honestly, you have to have training in terms of there's even the tax impact for the family, right? And most importantly, as I mentioned, it's the conversation. How do you approach someone with this, right? And I mean, you would have pamphlets and what, but it's really important to have those conversations. I look at another group I belong to, and it's a fiddling group. And in that fiddle, we all fiddle. And so fiddlers, I guess I should say. I'm an East Coaster, so you're probably not surprised that I fiddle. But they have, in our group alone, we have a lot of seniors. And the seniors, they want to give. A lot of them are kids, have moved on, and but this community, we meet every Saturday morning, and they want to give. So we're looking at setting up the program for that for them, to provide an opportunity. And then again, I talked about the Roundup. And then I just want to make a mention here. Sorry. I just made some notes because I want to make sure it's the storytelling that's really important, and testimonials, human stories. For your festivals, the stories that I'm sure which you all know do well, is people who can say they used to take their kids there and now they're there with their grandchildren. Those are beautiful stories, and link that to an artist sometimes as well. And your testimonials, it's put them on the web, like any social platform you have, those testimonials. And if you do radio ads, it is nice to have a little tidbit of that testimonial. It could be as simple as said by, so-and-so. So that's a marketing strategy, which I can talk about as well at another time. But so that's the Roundup, Deb, and maybe we'll go down to the next slide. I'm looking at the time here, and I want to make sure we have time for questions. So long-term sustainability, diversifying your funding streams. What I talked about earlier is we can't rely on grants. I mean, there's so much competition for grants, and I hate to say it, grants, sometimes it just depends on the year. It's not that they don't like your event or whatever, but there's so many events now, and categories change, right? So, and then showcase the impact with evidence, do your surveys. Surveys are critical. The thing is with your surveys, you don't want a long survey. You really, 5 questions, and your survey should be written, so that a grade 6 child can read that survey and understand it. And the reason for that is there's, again, I go back to cultural diversity. We want to make sure we're speaking in very plain language. So simple language and short questions, not a lot of questions, because people aren't going to do the surveys. If you have 10 questions, I wouldn't do it, I'll be honest. I mean, but even research shows people just, I'll do 5, that's it, right? Typically you do an odd number. Strengthen relationships year round. And I talked about this already. Get out there, go into the communities. It could be setting up probably have a Facebook page. The key is engagement, and you might want to do a newsletter, electronic newsletter, which is great. You put your testimonials in, but if you're going to do a newsletter, it's very important that you do it throughout the year. So, maybe at the holidays, you're wishing everyone a happy holidays and put some tidbits in of what you guys are working on. That's just keeping the people engaged and funders engaged, separate from the province, because they're probably not looking at that all the time, but within the community, it's very important. And I know, look, you're probably like, okay, we get it, legacy and Roundup, but I'm showing you, the numbers are there. It really works. So we'll go to the next slide, because we're at we don't have a lot of time. So we're at the end pretty much. That's your practical checklist. I'll leave that with you. It's a lot of what I've said already, but I just thought if that's, that's kind of, I do two things with events. I do the practical checklist, and the other is I do a circle of stakeholders. So if anyone wants that copy, I can send that to you. But it is basically a circle, who are all your stakeholders. So you always have that visual, like I need to make sure I include this person or that person or whatever. But if you want that circle of stakeholders, let me know and I can send it to you. I think, Deb, we have one more. I think it's just my thank you and questions at the end. There we go. Yeah.
There is a question here, Dolores. If your organization cannot provide a donation tax receipt, partner up with a charity or municipality that can collect for you in order to provide receipts. This helps to increase donations too.
It's true. So for Stewart Park Festival, for example, we are an arm of the BIA. And the BIA is an arm of the town. So the town of Perth. So when we apply for grants, we apply under the town of Perth. So I or the writer would prepare the grant. I also have to get the town to sign off, and then we send it to the province. For the tax receipts, it's the town that issues them. And the towns are they're great. They'll help you, right? They do the tax receipts for us, so which is great. What we do is for the when people come in and they give a donation, if they're giving over $25, they get a tax receipt, and we just track all that and then follow up with them with the receipt after the festival.
Kim said, I love the circle of stakeholders. So
I will send that to you. Yeah. If you can send me Kim's, or I can, whatever you prefer, Debbie, if you want to send me Kim's contact.
Okay. Meg would be able to do that.
Okay.
And Meg posted your email address. Are there any other questions?
It was a lot of information.
I know.
And it was a lot of good information. People are all thinking now, who should I be reaching out to?
It would be great to do like a half-day session, and let's apply what we've learned, and let's work really just go to the drawing board and start writing stuff out. And that would be ideal. This is very high level, and I recognize that. But again, if you need something else, I'm more than happy.
I have a question for you, Dolores.
Yeah.
Where do you look for grants? I know you said that they're not the main source. You want to be diversifying because you may not always be guaranteed getting a specific grant. But if you are looking for one to supplement your income, where do you go to find grants that would be applicable to your event?
So there's a couple of places. So I look locally. So sometimes for example, Lanark County is the county that Perth is in. So Lanark County. So I look to see in Lanark County what grants are available. Obviously the government ones, right? But I also follow, if you follow the not because I'm part of it, but the Canadian Folk, they do a newsletter out, and they identify what grants are available. I can send you that too. I sign up for a lot of organizations because of that. I want the information for the grant funding. And then sometimes I just do calls. I'll talk to another festival, and I'll see, they might say they got money from let's say Royal Bank, right? Or I might see a sign at a festival. But so you mean separate from the government? A lot of it is just doing research. I'll get it for you, and I apologize. There's an organization that you can go to, and it'll show you who is giving grants, and it'll show you why they give the grants. So it'll say, for example, if it was just Nike, that's an international thing, but Nike, they will give grants providing your mandate is, health and fitness and et cetera, et cetera. So I believe there's grants that are missed because we all don't know enough of the grants that are out there. Some companies do grants just really to be seen as a good corporate citizen. It was called the Gold. I will get that for you. And I don't know, I used to subscribe to it, and then it stopped, but somebody told me it started back up again, and it gives all the lists, but I'll get that for you.
Is that funding, let me see, Foundation Search?
No, it has the word gold in it. Golden. I will honestly, I'm not at my office. I have it
Okay.
at the office, and I can get that for you. And you have to pay a membership, and the membership, but it was like $50 or something for the year, which I mean, it's not chump change, but it taps you into everyone, like all the international stuff.
Okay,
Like
good.
we were, uh, and sometimes it's just, like, so for example, the other day, we were talking about doing this event, in Ottawa, so not in Perth. And I guess I don't have little kids, but I guess the big thing with their Croc shoes is these little things you put in the shoe, the tivots or whatever I don't know, but givots, I think they were called. So anyway, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So we're gonna call Crocs. Like it's just sometimes doing that, like, hey, you know what? We'd love to have you at our festival, and we could maybe work with you on designing something and so little stuff like that.
Is it, so I found something, Golden and District Community Foundation?
This is an international organization.
Oh, okay.
That's not district. Yeah, I'll get it, Deb.
Yeah, no problem. Just trying to help.
Oh, no, no, I appreciate it. I just, if I was in my office, I'd look at it, but it does have a lot of value to go through.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Uh,
And, I can't say enough about people who have, grown up in their community, their parents moved there. They want to give back. Like literally, like we're having a basketball court built. I mean, I mentioned the bocce ball court. Another guy, he's paying to have a basketball court in an area where there's no basketball court. Like it's so.
I have a question here from Andrew Zimble. Have you seen anyone who uses a platform like Patreon where supporters can give small amounts on regular basis?
Patreon?
Patreon?
I'm gonna look into that.
Patreon is like you can, Andrew might be able to talk about it a bit, but I think it's that people host videos and it's a
Yes.
membership based
Yes, I know.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Tony said, we at Port Stanley Festival Theatre subscribe to Grant Station, pay for an annual membership and get emails with updates.
Is it
And
international? Sorry.
sorry, I don't know, Grant
Oh,
Station, and then there's Grant Connect. Somebody else put that in there.
I gotta check those two, but yeah. And Grand Connect. Oh, that's good. See that's fantastic. And that honestly, we just wherever we think there's money, we call. To be, I mean, it sounds pretty bold, but that's what it is, right?
You don't
But
know if you don't ask.
you don't know if you don't ask, and that's where the value of your story is, right? That you're helping communities, and that's why your storytelling is so important, and how you tell the story, right? It is marketing, to be honest, but
Yeah,
it's important. Yeah.
Tony said Grant Station has listings for US and Canadian granting bodies, public, private, and government.
Perfect. And I was going to say for the people on the call right now who are within RTO9, RTO9 does have a funding opportunities page on our website, which is all third-party granting or funding opportunities. We're obviously going to have to check eligibility for each of them, but we try to keep it up to date to make sure that it's things that are relevant, and it offers an opportunity for organizations, businesses, event organizers to try to tap into some of that additional funding, and offering sessions like this with Dolores and Debbie to, explore some of those funding opportunities and get a little bit of information on maybe not necessarily having to go back and tap into grants every single time, but finding ways that you can promote your event and, maintain it without having to rely on solely
On the grants. That's true. That's, the other thing also, what's valuable in terms of getting grant information is talking to grant writers. So the person I mentioned, he is a valuable resource because he will say, oh, and did you know they had this grant? And he doesn't talk about his clients, but he does say these grants are available. And he's on some list where he gets a lot of it is the government grants, but yeah, it's tapping into that. Like that, I was saying, like we spent $1,800 for him to write a grant. We got 10 times value in that. Not just the grant, but in his knowledge, right? In terms of helping us. His strategies. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we are at time. So
Yes.
We're going to wrap it up today. And I appreciate everyone chiming in on the chat and sending in their questions. Everyone's going to get a follow-up email from today's session. It's going to have a copy of the recording. I'll see if Dolores, if you want to send your stakeholder circle.
I will.
I
Yeah.
can include that in the follow-up email for everybody. But thank you so much, Dolores, and thank you so much
Oh,
for organizing this and taking the time and sharing your knowledge on this. It was a fabulous opportunity to just listen to all of your experience.
oh, well, look, thank you. And you know what? As I say, I'm always available, right? And I mean that to everyone, even individually. Just send me a message. And in January, I'll be in the States teaching for you, and that's international students. So if you have questions you want me to ask them, just send me stuff because I do bring back a lot of information from them as well. We have a session on is that for you, November 13th, Deb? Yeah.
Yeah, 13th for volunteers and December 14th partnering.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
everyone be sure to register for those. They're upcoming.
Yes.
We're going to get to tap into more of Dolores's brain and knowledge and experience on organizing events. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, and thank you for everyone that has joined on. I have to scoot into Ottawa, so I'm an hour away because I have a big sponsorship event. So I may not get the circle of stakeholder thing to you until later tonight because I just need to get there by 1:15. So
that's totally fine.
Yeah, just so I don't want you to be waiting. So just to set the expectations. Well, thank you. Thank you, Meg, and thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate it. And thank you to the listeners. It's been wonderful. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.